laborers? Is that, or is it easy to decipher who those direct laborers are?
It's pretty easy.
Pretty easy. All you do is go to payroll and say, hey, give me the cost of all these direct laborers, these gals and guys that are working on the front lines in the factory operation. And boom, you get that easy enough. There's no adding and subtracting. You just take the number. And is it going to be an estimated amount, an applied amount of direct labor cost, or actual?
So with this, it's going to be an applied amount.
For direct labor?
Oh no, for direct labor, that's gonna be actual. I'm sorry, I heard you wrong. That's my bad. It's gonna be actual.
So the direct material costs and the direct labor costs are going to be actual. And then the third one, manufacturing overhead, what's that going to be?
That's going to be applied.
On the schedule, it's going to be applied. And when we do the journal entries, is it the same thing? We debit work in process for actual direct materials, and we debit work in process for actual direct labor, but we debit work in process for the applied manufacturing overhead. So there's some consistency here, isn't there?
Yes.
So we have the three manufacturing costs, but then I said you got to do what with it? What did I say you had to do with it?
So with the three costs, we gotta we'll find our total manufacturing costs with those, but then we'll have to add the work in process inventories to that, and then you actually got to deduct.
Is there more than one work in process inventory account?
There's going to be a beginning and an ending, which you got to add.
So do we add both of them? You're telling me we're going to add both? Because you said, let me rewind the tape. You got to add your work in process inventory accounts. So that's more than one. So now you're telling me you got to add the beginning and ending. That's what it seems like. No?
No.
Did you misspeak? Did you?
I misspoke.
Okay. Forgive it.
So you want to add the beginning work in process inventory. You want to deduct the ending, and that's going to get you your cost of goods manufactured.
Now let's clarify everything, because we had kind of muddied everything up. Let's try to make it real basic. After we do a proper heading, then what?
So after we do a proper heading, we want to make sure that we have a subheading of direct materials, and then to find your raw materials used in production, what you want to do is you want to start with the beginning raw materials inventory. You want to add your purchases. That's going to give you your total materials available. Then you want to deduct the ending raw materials inventory account, and then that's going to give you your raw materials used.
Well, you also have to deduct if the problem states there's indirect materials that are used, and if they tell you that amount, you would subtract that in order to get the total direct materials used in production, and that would be at actual.
That would be it. You said that would be at actual?
Yes, I thought that's what we came to a conclusion that.
Oh, I was just making sure. I was just making sure.
The actual. So that's one of the three, and then the next manufacturing cost on that schedule is?
That's going to be direct labor.
Yes, actual or applied?
The direct labor is always going to be actual.
Okay, good. I'm kind of got that straight now. Then the next cost, the next manufacturing cost would be?
That's going to be your applied overhead, your manufacturing applied overhead to work process.
All right. So those three costs will be added up. That's the total cost that they had for that time period. But then we have to, we got to whip it. We got to whip it good. And so what do I mean by that?
You got to apply the you got to apply the overhead to work in process.
You got to apply the overhead to work in process, or do you got to add the work in process, beginning work in process to the three manufacturing?
Oh, so yeah, after you get your manufacturing cost, then you add your beginning work in process inventory. Yep.
And then we're good. We can send it over to cost of goods sold schedule.
Oh no, Ed.
Okay, I was trying to trick you up there, wasn't I?
Then you gotta. Well, I'm looking at my homework, but I can't remember which step it is. If you did have indirect materials, I don't know if you'd subtract that after you've added beginning work in process inventory. Is that when you would subtract that or deduct it?
No, you got to make that adjustment while you're calculating direct material costs. So let me repeat it. since
I'll write it down.
I have a little bit more experience. I started teaching this class in 1984, probably before you were born.
Oh yeah, well before.
So you take the beginning raw materials inventory, you add to that the raw materials you purchased during that time period. That gives you the total raw materials available to be put into production. You got to subtract out one, the ending raw materials inventory, because those were not put into production. And then if the problem states they had $5,000 of indirect materials, that's part of raw materials. And you got to subtract that out to get the total amount of direct materials used in production. And then we just take the actual direct labor. We're going to add that to what we calculated the actual direct materials put into production. And then we have to use the applied manufacturing overhead. We add those three manufacturing costs up, but we're not done yet, because when we started this time period, probably we had some product that was partially completed from last time period. So those items will be completed first. They're partially completed. We add more direct materials to that. We add direct labor, we apply overhead, and then those jobs are going to be done first. So we got to add the beginning work in process. But then we have to subtract ending work in process, because we didn't finish producing those products. So there's no way they could be sold, because we take the total cost of goods manufactured, all the manufacturing costs for this time period, that completed work, we transfer that out of work in process and we put it into the finished goods inventory. So we debit finished goods inventory and we credit work in process. Now we can take that number, we take the beginning finished goods inventory to calculate the schedule of cost of goods sold. We add to that what we had calculated, the bottom number on the schedule of cost of goods manufactured, that those items have been completed and transferred out. We get to add that to the beginning finished goods, because we could sell what we had in finished goods inventory, and we could sell the goods that were manufactured for this time period. All right. So that gives us the total goods we can sell. We're going to subtract out the ending finished goods, and then we get the unadjusted cost of goods sold. And we would have to adjust the unadjusted cost of goods sold if we had under or over applied overhead to arrive at the adjusted cost of goods sold. Now, do you feel like you have it down?
I feel like you, Ed.
Well, if we had time, I have you go through it again, but we kind of are losing a little bit of time. Colin's wrestling with technology. I don't know if he can see me. I don't know if he can hear me, but people tell me he can text now and then. So if he texts anything, let me know, because I'm kind of curious if he's still engaged, because without it, technology, maybe he's not engaged. Oh, he says he's still here. I see that flashed up on my screen. Somehow, thank you, Colin, or whoever's doing that on my screen so I can see what he's saying. I appreciate that. All right. I've done a little goofing around. That's the kind of guy I am. Forgive me if you're a real serious person. I just don't take myself that serious. We all know this is temporary life anyways. So we might also work hard, right? Oh, take it easy. Yeah. I don't mind taking it easy a little bit, but I always like to work hard. But there's nothing wrong with having fun while you're working hard. That's my motto. All right. So now it should be easy enough. Let me simplify and share a screen with you if you don't mind. I promise this won't be vulgar. I hope not. Well, it could be, but I hope it won't be for you. Let's see. That's the wrong one. This is the right one. So here it is.